Alright, y'all, so welcome to the Coral and Predator Reef Tank feeding. This is actually going to take place in both exhibits, but I am going to start over here on the Coral Reef side. I will talk a little bit about the fishes that you're seeing within each. In our Coral Reef Tank, it is actually connected to the Predator Reef by the two large acrylic windows that you'll find directly in the center. Collectively, they are right around 200,000 gallons of water. So they are the largest exhibits that we have here at the aquarium. In our Coral Reef Tank is where we do offer that encounter for guests to get into the water, either snorkeling or diving. It is really up to you whether you are certified or not. You'll be feeding all of our fishes through a little squirt bottle of food, so they do swarm you exactly like they're doing this window currently. You also get to hand feed our two cow-nosed stingrays that are named Chip and Dale. And lastly, you'll head over to the acrylic windows and target feed those sharks, eels, and groupers on the other side, as all of those animals are actually trained to receive food from guests from that window with these specialized holes that we have for you. In our Coral Reef Tank, we do have about 2,000 animals all together and over 50 different species, all of which are native here to the Keys. So you can find any one of these fish right here off the coast. And that does make this tank a great representation of the reef ecosystem that you'll find here in our waters, which is actually the third largest reef in the world and the only living reef in the continental U.S. So of course, I'm not going to go over every single species in here, but I will go ahead and name some iconic ones for you. I do want to start off with those two cow-nosed stingrays, Chip and Dale. You may have seen them in a few areas around our property, like in our lagoon. That's Betty and Pebbles. And we have a bunch of them over in Stingray Cove, in which you can interact with all day if you'd like to do so by feeding and or petting. Cow-nosed rays are very social species of ray, and you may be able to see that when you're hanging out over at Stingray Cove. They come right up to you. Out in the wild, they're found in very large groupings, which is in fact called a fever. Largest on record is right around 10,000 cow-nosed stingrays in one area. We also do have two juvenile cow-nosed rays you can find over in the nursery tank and interact with them over there. But also in that exhibit, we have the Atlantic guitarfish. There are also two of those here in this exhibit. They look like a mashup of stingray and shark. Though they are neither of those animals, they are actually going to be related to them in the same grouping of the elasmobrix, and that means they have a cartilaginous skeleton as well. Now in this exhibit, you'll find those guitarfish typically hanging out along the bottom, as they are what's called a bottom-dwelling or a benthic species of animal. Directly in front of the window, you are finding a bunch of yellow and silver-colored fish. Those are going to be different species of grunts. And that includes the porkfish having the two black lines going right through their face. I'm also very commonly asked about those bright red fish, and if you notice, they do have a thick black bar right behind their large eyes. Those are called the black bar soldier fish. Another brightly colored fish I do like to point out is going to be that of the blue parrotfish. You may have seen them in our lagoon, those bright blue colored fish that you're seeing when you throw in pellets, hanging out with the rainbow parrotfish, the red and green colored. Now, parrotfish are very essential to the ecosystem. They eat a lot of algae, and right off the coral, they'll collect some of that limestone as they eat as well. And as they digest that, they actually create sand. So you're going to thank all of those beautiful parrotfish for all those awesome beaches that you hang out on. Next, I am going to feed some of our scraps of fish. More of the carnivorous fishes here in this exhibit as well. So you're going to see a little bit more action here as we go. There we go. So if we have any fishermen here, you may recognize our sport fish, the very popular bonefish as well as permit, both of which will have a silver shiny coloration to their body, but having very different shapes to their body. So bonefish will have more of a torpedo shape, and they even have their head looking like it's armored plate. They're a very fun fish to go after, as they are very evasive. That gives them the name the Ghost of the Flats. Now, like their name implies, they are a bony fish, so not very edible. However, those permit are pretty good tasting. They're going to have more of a spade shape to their body and a black patch right on the sides, right by their pectoral fins. They're a very fast fish, part of the jack family, with having a very prominent fork-like tail. If you look a little towards the reef in the center, you're going to find a bunch of small silver fish and a big schooling, and those are called pilchards. Very good bait fish. Their only defense mechanism is to ball up in what's called a bait ball, and they swim evasively and strategically away from predators. And at times on the bottom of the reef, you are going to find some of our Caribbean spiny lobster coming out to check you out as well. We have a bunch of them over in our island exhibit that you can look at if you'd like to do so and even feed today. Now, all of our lobsters on property are ranging right around probably 3 to 6 pounds, but lobsters are known as an indeterminate grower, so they are growing until death. The largest on record for the Caribbean spiny is 26 pounds and just over 3 feet in length. I am about done feeding here on this side, but did anyone have any additional questions about the coral reef tank before I move on? All right, I'm going to head over to the predator reef and start feeding out those larger fishes there for you. All right, y'all, so over here on the predator reef side, of course, we have those larger fishes, and that in turn means they can be a little more powerful and actually create a little bit of a splash zone directly in front of the windows. Just be aware ahead of time for me. I am going to be throwing in front of both windows, so you're welcome to watch from either. We'll go ahead and get started. Now, in this tank, we actually have 8 sharks total, and they are represented by 3 different species. The largest is going to be the sandbars. Sandbar sharks do have the longer extended and wider dorsal and pectoral fins. It makes them look like an airplane. We do have 5 sandbars in here total, 3 of which are adults. You'll find usually swimming along the bottom of the tank. And then 2 of which are much smaller in size because they are only right around 2 years of age. But all 5 of those sharks can actually reach right around 8 to 9 feet in length. The smallest species of shark here will be the black nose. We have 2 of them. They're going to have more of a point to their snout with a black patch right at the edge, looking a lot like a mustache. The black nose sharks, they on average are going to reach right around 5 feet in length. And the last species in here, we have 1 of them is going to be the black tip. And like its name implies, they do have the black coloration at the tips of most of its fins. They will reach right around 8 feet in length, so just about that sandbar size. But a fish in here that's very commonly mistaken for a shark, having the physical structure a lot like one, are those 2 cobia. They have that darker coloration to their back and a white, pale underbelly. Cobia are actually going to have a bony skeleton where these sharks have that cartilaginous. So they're not a shark, but you can find them hanging around them out in the wild because those cobia do act a lot like a cleanup crew, eating a lot of the scraps that those animals actually leave behind. The other very large fish in here with the large silver scales and upturned mouth are those tarpon. Tarpon are very sought after. They are a sport fish, fun to catch, as they are very powerful. They do put up quite the fight on the line, twisting and turning. But they are more of a catch and release fish, and that is because their meat is very bony and red, so not too edible. However, there are people that will eat them regardless. Our largest tarpon here on property you can find over in Tarpon Basin, right around 100 pounds. But they actually max out at 300 pounds, so quite a bit of growing for all of our tarpon to do. You will find a variety of snappers and jacks in here as well. They're going to be much faster fish getting to this food, the fastest here. That's going to include some crevalle jacks, as well as the permit that I mentioned earlier in the coral reef, and even rainbow runners. They will have a very sleek torpedo-shaped body built for speed. And it's going to have 2 bright blue lines traveling through the sides and leading to a very prominent yellow fork-like tail. Some snappers here will include the mutton as well as the dog, but we even have the cupera snapper. You can find one of those up close over in our big shark bay on the island as well. They will have very large canine teeth to help with their diet of crustaceans like lobsters. It breaks into those shells very easily. Now, you may have seen Nacho roaming around. She likes to make her presence known along the windows throughout the day. She is our female southern stingray. Being a female southern ray, she can actually reach to 6 feet in wingspan and over 200 pounds, which will double the size of the male, which is very common in the ray species for the female to be larger than the male. And the last species I'm going to go over in here is going to be the 2 green moray eels. One of them is kind of hanging out on the right side window by the coral in the center. Both of our eels are right around 6 feet in length currently, but they can actually reach to 8 feet, which is making them the largest species of moray eel. And although they appear up here that they are the color of green, and their name implies that they are, their skin actually has more of a dark brown or dark blue coloration. However, they are secreting a yellow mucus covering. So that gives our eyes the illusion that they're green while they're under the water. And what's really awesome about that animal, they do have two sets of jaws. They have the first set like us taking that prey into their mouth, and the second set is called a pharyngeal jaw that acts essentially as a throat. So it'll come up to the mouth, grabbing that prey, and then bring it straight down to the stomach, as they just don't have a tongue to push that food down themselves. All right, y'all, I am about done with this feeding here, and of course, if you have any additional questions for me, I am more than happy to answer those for you. But I do want to point out, our next feeding is just in 5 short minutes at 11:30. That's going to be on our observation deck. To get there, you're going to head over the bridge all the way down to the bottom past the cafe on your left. So we will be feeding out any scraps of the day and going over any of the wild residents that come up for us. Thank you so much for checking out this feed today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the aquarium.